Hello, I'm Berni Xiong, Life Spark with Berni Xiong LLC at bernixiong.com. Today is Monday, September 19th, 2011, and this is episode 36 of Get a Life Spark. Alright guys, I was so excited to jump on video today because I couldn't wait to talk about this week's topic of discussion. I decided that we were going to talk about having a victory log of sorts. Back when I was in corporate sales, this is what we called it. Some of you might call it a list of accomplishments. You know, anything that kind of talks about what you're proud of, that you've accomplished, what you've achieved. And then on top of that, you kind of have notes that have established what it was that you had to go through in order to accomplish such a goal. I also call this my evidence of no coincidences list. Again, it's a victory log because I talk about the things I'm so proud about that I've accomplished. But on top of that, I've done it with intention and deliberate action. So even though I'm excited about it, it may seem on the outside, it might appear and look like luck. But it really isn't when you get down to the bottom of it and you look back and understand what mindset you were in, what position did you put yourself in, what kind of circumstances were you under, to see yourself move from just the thought of having what you wanted and then making it manifest for you. So the reason I'm even more excited to talk about this is today, when I've been planning to do the video blog, 3 things happened to me today, okay? 3 times today, serendipitous occurrences happened for me that only validates this thought even more. And this thought is that it's not luck when you set the intention about what you want to have in your life. And then you take deliberate action to make it happen. And even more exciting than those 2 things is seeing it happening and receiving those awesome things that seem like luck, that seem like coincidence, but really is serendipity. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And again, I am so off the cuff, so be prepared to write notes frantically again. I'm sure you'll gain something from this conversation, from the first-hand experiences I'm going to share with you. Okay, so if you all have been following me for quite some time now, I'm going to show you my silly-looking... This is my silly-looking, broken apart vision book is what it's called. But basically it's a sketch pad that my coach gave to me a few years ago when I first made the intention to become a life coach. And I wrote all over it, obviously, because I was still discovering what this is and what it's going to do for me. And one of the pages I created in this book, which I'm going to pull out obviously because my vision book has become a little disheveled here. It's called Evidence of No Coincidences. And at this point it's only on the front and back, obviously, because I ran out of room, but I started to journal about this separately on my computer, about times that I have seen certain patterns occur in my life in specific situations to enable myself to take a goal, take deliberate action behind that, and have that goal become an accomplishment. So it's so exciting. I'll share a few things with you here, just because, I mean, just going back and seeing what mindset I was in, seeing where I was in 2000 and I want to say 2007, I believe. Late 2007. Actually, I'm sorry, it was early 2008. It was spring of 2008 that I actually sat down and started using this sketchbook as my vision book. And the very first entry I wrote for the evidence of no coincidences is that my coach happened to, and forgive me, I'm sure you've heard this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. My coach, which actually back in early 2000s, she and I had met on a job when I used to be in technology sales. And we sold education. We sold the Microsoft certification package. And she and I worked very closely together on the same team, and we became really good friends. Both of us having a sales background really, helped us to have a lot of similarities and commonalities, but then also our personality and behavior also seemed to share synergy as well. And over that time that we worked together, it was a very short time that I worked there, we became really good friends. Unfortunately, I did leave the job and she left the job as well, and we had lost touch over time. And so I'd say a few years had gone by before I finally would bump into her again. And at this point, her phone number had changed, so I couldn't get a hold of her. I had an old email address for her, but I wasn't sure if she was still actively using it, and so I hadn't contacted her for, I'd say, about a good year and a half between our not talking to each other. So it was in early 2008 that I happened to be sitting at a Starbucks, still working for my corporate sales job. I was able to work remotely. And the Starbucks I never frequent. It typically is all the way on the other side of town, halfway between where I lived, which at that time I lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, which, as most of you know, is just south of downtown Milwaukee. And my son went to school out in a western suburb, which was about a good 30-minute drive away. And so I decided while I worked, if I would run out of time to get to the bus stop, I would just pick my son up directly from school. And so this Starbucks was perfectly smack dab in the middle. So I'm sitting there, I'm doing my work, and lo and behold, I see somebody in the corner of my eye who I wasn't sure if it really was who I thought it was. And long story short, it ended up being her. It ended up being this person that I used to work with in my past sales life. And I walk over there, again, a little hesitant in case I'm wrong, and I didn't want to look stupid. And indeed, it was her. And the first thing I said to her was, I'm sorry for interrupting your conversation, but I just had to come over here and say hi to you because this is just so bizarre that I'm seeing you here in a random place. Gosh, I want to catch up with you. Let's exchange contact information. She pulls out her business card and she says, "Oh, I'm no longer in sales. I started a new business and here's what I'm doing now." Yes, I'm sure you can completely guess what the profession was underneath her name on her business card. She was a life coach. And after we had left that Starbucks separately, went on our way, a couple hours later we did catch up on the phone and we talked for a little bit. And I had learned that the reason she became a life coach and she had left her sales job was because she was so unfulfilled with her job and the way she felt about herself. In broken relationships. She was always a codependent lover, and having a great job didn't sustain her spiritually and emotionally. And so she sought the help of psychotherapy and coaching to really help her gain greater clarity about what would bring her happiness in life. And the most amazing thing is that became the impetus for me as well. For the main reason, obviously, I started my business was because I was becoming so unfulfilled in my sales job, traveling a lot and not being able to see my son as much as I wanted to. And on top of that, also dealing with codependent relationships that were failing me time and time and time again and leaving me brokenhearted. And so this woman and I began this new partnership, if you will, and she became my mentor coach. And I had explained to her about how I was so excited myself about learning more about the world of coaching. I had heard about it prior to meeting her, but meeting her only validated the fact for me that this was definitely something that I should look into, and now I have a resource to help me to get through this stumbling block and through this learning curve. And here I am, three years later, and a couple of months, doing it. And I'm so excited to tell you that because that was the first item on this evidence of no coincidences sheet. And here I am 3 years plus a couple of months later, and today my video blog is talking just about this very topic, about having a victory log, about writing down these different things. They may seem silly, they may seem, like, they may not seem like a big deal right now to you. But you know what? It's not always going to make sense to you immediately when you uncover some of these things initially. But over time, if you pay attention to all of the signs, if you pay attention to all the steps that you took to get there, you'll find in the future, holy crap, all of these occurrences meant to happen for a reason, to bring me here where I am today. So speaking of today, this is why I'm such a strong proponent of serendipity. Speaking of today, so after I made the intention this morning that we're going to talk about this victory log, we're going to talk about writing down about our goals and accomplishments and what we're going to do to get there, and then recording when we get there, how we feel, how we got there, and making sense of it all. Then today I ended up, again, not going to run into, a huge discussion about this, but three other things that happened to me today. Two people who were on my mind. One was an accident. I was shuffling through papers and the name popped up. The other person I was thinking about because I needed to follow up with. Neither of them had heard from me for quite some time now, and neither of them knew I was thinking about them today. And literally both of them contacted me within, I'm not even kidding you, an hour and a half of me thinking about them. Just randomly out of the blue. Okay, it may seem like coincidence, and I'm not going to sit here and try to debate with you, coincidence versus, serendipity. But all I'm saying is I'm a strong believer, and I've made it work for me, and I made it happen, and I've made things manifest in my life because I've trusted the process, and I've taken deliberate action to do what I need to do to make things happen, things that I really want to happen. Okay. So enough about the backstory. I know I have so many stories to tell, and I apologize for rattling off, but it was just so amazing to see these things occurring when you least expect it. And I don't know why I don't expect it anymore. It's become so intentional and so deliberate that now I should be able to snap my finger and know when something is going to happen or know when somebody's going to call me. But I'm not psychic and I can't read minds. So that is likely not going to happen. So what I really want you to do today is to consider this. First of all, whether or not you're a believer in serendipity, whether you do believe that coincidences are always the answer for why things happen that seem like luck, then you know what? I'm not even going to challenge you to change your mindset. All I'm going to challenge you to do is this. I want you to begin documenting things that you would like to achieve. And I'm not just talking, maybe like it or something that's completely unrealistic. I want you to really hone in on something that you're really interested in. Okay? For me, at the time, it was, I really am so into life coaching. Please let me get into the profession however I need to. Let me get into a coaching program. Okay? That was kind of my mindset when I first started this 3 years ago. And again, I made that happen for me. I was able to obtain, an amazing course near my location where I lived at the time, which was unlikely to happen when I needed it to happen. But I did. I made it happen. But anyway, you have to believe in it strongly enough. Otherwise, it won't work for you. Okay? Secondly, I want you to really hone in on what you're willing to do, what you're willing to give, what you're willing to offer, what you're willing to put out there in order to exchange, right? You ask for something, you got to give something. So in order to exchange and make this great goal happen for you, in order for you to achieve this thing. I would say start with at least 2 to 3 action items that you realistically and specifically can do. Obviously, you've got to make them very detailed and specific. If I wanted to get into a life coaching program, I just can't say something like, oh, I'm just going to go and look on the internet. I would want to be more specific. I'm going to go look on the internet and use keyword searches that include the word life coaching, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I mean, something even as subtle as that can really make a difference. So I want you to create specific and detailed action items to help you to take deliberate action, okay? And then the last thing I want you to do is I want you to visit this at a minimum. I'm not going to ask you to do more than that. If you want to, you can. But at a minimum, I want you to review this list daily. And I want you to really obsess about it. I want you to really own this and take responsibility for this. And not only imagine this happening for you, but I really want you to physically do the work that you need to in order to make this goal manifest for you. Okay? And this is what will shock you. This is what will surprise you. And this is something you probably don't know if you haven't had the ability to intention things for you yet. You probably have already done it. You just didn't know. But you'll find that as you start to put the strong intention out there for what you want, things and people will start surfacing around you. You don't even know this is going to happen. It's just going to happen for you. But it's because you've set the deliberate intention and you've taken deliberate action to support that thought, to support that strong feeling. And a combination of those two things will enable you to start surrounding yourself with people and things that will start surfacing and creating opportunities for you. And it's going to be your responsibility to decipher what things you want to accept, to take in, and not, as well as what you are willing to put out there and what you are willing to give. And if you need to add to your action item list, please do. If you need to modify some things, please do. But just know that you need to actively be viewing and reviewing this list on a daily basis, living and breathing it, and making it happen until it does. And then lastly, I ask you to record the experience as it's happening and at the end when you accomplish this goal, because you will be so excited to share with me how it worked. And I have no doubt in my mind it's going to work. I know it's going to work with 100% certainty because it's worked for me and it continues to work for me as it just did today. The third thing, because I said 3 things happened to me today. The third thing I can't tell you yet because it's going to be a surprise once it completely manifests. But the third thing that is happening for me today is so exciting, and it's going to be shared in a future video blog, hopefully next week, if not then the following. And it will really put things into perspective even more than what I've already shared with you here today. But anyway, that is it, folks. All right, have this victory log / evidence of no coincidences log / my achievements log, whatever you want to call it, and write it on whatever you want to write it on and store it wherever you want to store it. All I ask you to do is review this every single day and follow the steps that I outlined earlier. And I'm telling you, serendipity is such a lovely thing, and I'm so glad you're going to be able to invite it into your life whether or not you believe it exists. I guarantee you will not regret going through this exercise. And I look forward to learning about all of your experiences as all of you achieve these things that you set out to do. All right, folks, I've talked enough today. Sorry for the long-windedness. Time to get back to work and intentioning more things through me. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for stopping by. And thank you for continuing to support and encourage your life spark. I love being here every week, helping you, inspiring and supporting you as you have done for me all this time and continue to do. So I will talk to you next week. Make it great. See you soon.